one of the main reasons that we're having this chat is I invited you to contribute to a newsletter article whereby you will be giving advice to some of the youth. And, I've started it for 2 weeks now. I received a huge number of input.
Yes.
And now it's getting difficult for you because most of the things that needs to be answered has been answered.
Yes.
So how do you coin a totally different perspective from questions such as, what do you recommend young people do at home? And 90% of the answers that I've received is educate yourself, reflect, give me something new.
Sure. Okay. What else? What else have been what else is in the current range of responses so far? So I don't kind of cover the same ground. Because you're saying to use your time well and to educate yourself.
Yeah, or to reflect, or to stay close to your family.
Yes.
The one that was quite interesting was, inviting the youth not to do anything, which is along the same line of reflecting, to take this time to really enjoy and let your body rest.
Yes.
Without being too much of an advisor,
Yes.
What do you think you are most impressed with yourself in the last 2 weeks that you're so proud of it? That other people may like to pick up.
Yeah, I'll answer the first part, the previous question first, Shaun. I want to kind of put parameters around my response. And yes, I mean, I'm in Melbourne here. I'm like 7 hours flight away from Brunei, but I still have family. I still have loved ones in Brunei. So most days, if not every day, I'm still scanning the news of both Australia and Brunei. So I still have a bit of a loose touch with what's happening in Brunei.
Your soul hasn't left it.
Yeah, my roots are there. My dad is still there, for example. So and I still have loads of social contacts through social media. So I know that as a whole cohort of students who were brought back, who were isolated in the hotels for a while. And I think now we're reaching the day 15, day 16, where some of them are being released back to their homes.
Right.
And so I kind of want to put those parameters around my response, Shaun, because I think that especially for university students, right? And I think it's different for high school or primary students or secondary students. The people I have it on my mind and my heart, I dare say, are the university students, because this is a big thing, right? Imagine if you were in your second year or your third year or even your first year, and if you were brought back from wherever you were studying overseas, and now you are in this state of limbo because number one, the curriculum is now having to change every day. Like some schools and institutions are already transitioned to be fully online or have online capabilities, but some schools and institutions haven't made that jump, and it's a big jump to make. So I still hear how some institutions are still finding that balance between online and offline learning. But number two, there might be the sheer logistics of travel restrictions. You may not be allowed back into wherever you were studying, and who knows how long that's going to go for. And which means that if you're 18, 19, or 20, it's a strange, scary time, because if you had charted out your life, say, from by 24, 22, 23, I'll be done with my universities, I'm going to start to think ahead to the next phase of my life, that may no longer be the case, right? And obviously for universities where they have online learning and they are still on track to complete things, then that's a different thing. But I'm zooming in on those who are in that space of limbo. For example, if you're a health professional and if you're studying, part of your studies there are internships and placements involved where you have to spend X amount of time per hour, per week, per month, per year in a healthcare setting. And that's by and large been removed from the curriculum because hospitals are very strict about who they allow near their patients and those kinds of things. So my answer is kind of, those are my parameters, Shaun.
Okay.
That yes, there is a sense that you should still be educating yourself. Yes, you should be reflecting and staying close to home and your family and using the time you have to forge and strengthen those bonds with family and loved ones. But my answer to that question, Shaun, is to prepare around things like your CV, really practical things, Shaun, like get your CV up and running. Because most of us, if your audience is anything like me, Shaun, I didn't get my CV drafted until I was close to the end of my university run. Whereas I think that for students, even from high school, but especially if you're in university and if you're just in this stuck or limbo phase, use this time to start getting ready and preparing, because this will eventually pass. But get your CV sorted, or at least have a draft. Things like interview skills, I think, is an interesting thing to talk about as well, because that's part of that whole job readiness discussion, Shaun, like interview skills. And the third thing, which I echo with what your previous guests are saying, is just to keep educating. Now, there's so much information online, Shaun, as you would know, be it from things like how to grow a YouTube channel, how to perfect your PowerPoint slides, whatever you're looking for, there's information out there. So there's no shortage of information and content.
How do you practice interview skills?
Just like this, Shaun. I mean, if they have someone they trust, if you can somehow form a timetable through your networks to say, look, I'm keen to have 4 mock 15-minute interviews next week. Who would like to volunteer their time just to have these kinds of things where you're 4 or 5 from your circle of student networks to say, look, I'm keen to try this pilot, and just start from there, Shaun.
That's brilliant.
Zoom, because and even before this crisis, like the big fours, the big corporations of the world, video interviews were already part of the process, right? Because you might be in Brunei, but the job posting might be in Singapore. So sometimes the logistics might not allow you to do in-person interviews. So we're seeing so much video integrated into the interview process already.
I love this.
So
I really.
So I think there's a lot to do, Shaun. And the point here and the objective here is to prepare for the next phase event, whenever that we hit the new normal or go back to the new normal. If people in the university bracket are preparing right now, they're already going to be a few steps ahead of those who are just using this as a bit of a holiday time, in transition time. And the point there is to be intentional and to prepare.
You know what's interesting is, if I was to think back how I would react if this was to happen to me when I was still in university, I would probably have celebrated a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't need to go to school.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you come across this Australian ad that says, "Can you imagine a better start to the day?" by one of those cereal brands. And then this kid was imagining, shit hitting on the school, and you don't need to go to school. It's almost like that.
Yeah. I know what you mean, because it's one of these things. I think if you're in the system of education, the whole thing about I can't wait to finish school, I can't wait to finish university. But as you and I know, we long for those days, right? I miss those days so much of just going to school, having some structure, do some assignments, and you go day by day, not having to worry about mortgages and life and putting food on the table. So yeah, I think outside looking in is of course easy to say, right? Prepare, plan, but inside looking out, there would be those among us who are happy just to take this little extended holiday
and binge on Netflix. Now, another time